you guys are somewhat familiar with me. Okay, cool. Let's dive down there first. We're going to do a lot of the intro stuff. So cool. Yeah, I just wanted to, or whenever you're ready. Okay. So I just wanted to go through the gist of what the Bible says about where we are and where God is in this discussion. And so we guys watch online and chat together, where we book.com, and the website, on Facebook and YouTube, at chat together. And so I think it's part of being kind of artistic and also kind of affectionate that, I gave a talk last year where I went about the book and playing, this same subject. And so this time I was like, well, I don't want to do the same thing I did last year. And so then I started working on, well, how am I going to have this presentation where I can cover the same thing? What does the Bible say about where we are and where it's gone? And then I realized, well, I spent 2 years putting together books that in a particular order for this exact thing. And so instead of being all over the place, I go through that. So, the projector, then the projector up and running.
That's it. I'll speak with you, Mike.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my bad. Oh, yeah. It's easy for you guys to hear me? Okay.
It picks up the audio better.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Oh, that makes sense. All right. So, first part of the Bible. And I'm just going to go through here real quick. And I'll tell you what page I'm on to. So, 7 days of creation. And now, so if you guys, in the beginning of the book, I talked about this subject and how it came along. And what threw me for a loop was Genesis chapter 1 and how it made absolutely no sense to me. This is 2009, where I was on the top of the mountain and I'm reading this verse right here. So Genesis 1, actually, the next page, verse 6. But so this in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without. Yes, look at the ESV. So, and I'm not picking out like verses in particular. So yeah, King James. So there's the King James version, NIV, ESV, and RSV. I wonder why that's not picking up this one because I have it right here. And so yeah, so for every example, there's 4 different Bible versions, and so. And the reason I did that, I actually started out with using about 7 or 8 different versions, and then I'm not picking up that at all.
Hit F4 on your
F4. And I started out with a bunch of different versions, but there wasn't enough room in the book to have 8 different Bible versions. What I found is that a lot of people will go, oh, it only says that in this particular version or that particular version. And the truth is that every version I've ever looked into is consistently describing the same thing about creation, about how everything's made. If you need to have a copy. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so in every version I've ever looked at, the Bible is describing the same thing consistently. And I personally really like parallel Bibles where you can read, different versions. Say the version I use has 4 different Bible versions in it. That's the Bible I read from. And I like to go, if I ever have a question with any of the versions, then I go, well, what does that mean? And then I kind of read across the other 3. And if I still am wondering, well, I still don't get personally, I'll pull out a concordance and kind of do more digging and see what's being said. And so I wanted to have basically a parallel Bible to go along with all the different examples. So there's 101 examples of how the Bible describes Earth in here. And so, as I go through and I present, I don't pick out particular versions as I go through. So I'll just kind of randomly say because they're all describing the same thing, and some just a little bit more clear than others, but they're all describing the same thing. So when you brought up heaven, so the ESV says heaven, King James says heaven, but you're right. Yeah. And so we'll go through. So I'll just do King James. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. The evening and the morning was the first day. So in here I have the face, and I have deep underlined. So all the words that are underlined have the dictionary definitions to go along with it. Here's the clear up there, but they go along with it, just so you can simply go through. So every example is illustrated and just what is being described. And so, in simple terms, there we had the Spirit of God on the water and light and dark. And then so day 2, and God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. So, and God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Now, this is the verse that these 3 verses here are what really threw me for a loop back in 2009. This is where I was reading, and I kept hitting it. But my version that I had with me at the time was the NRSV at the bottom there. And and God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the water." And so that, I just hit a brick wall when I was reading the Bible. I'm like, what does this mean? What is this dome thing? And I wanted clarity as I was going through the Bible at that time, and all I had was confusion. And so that word there is rakia. So the Strong's number, so the word firmament is rakia in Hebrew, and so Strong's number H7549, and it says from properly an expanse, that is the firmament or apparently visible arch of the sky. Firmament is a strong definition. The Brown Driver Briggs is extended surface, solid in parentheses, expanse, firmament. A is expanse, flat as base, support, and then firmament of vault of heaven supporting waters above, considered by Hebrews as solid and supporting waters above. And so something solid supporting waters above, if you want to think of it that way. In other places it talks about it like a cast metal mirror, or is like bronze. Other places it talks about it reflecting the sun's light. And the Bible talks about that. And so I'm reading this and I'm going, this does not line up with what we've believing about a spinning ball in space. And so I don't see how you can read this and then go, and it fit with the paradigm we've all grown up with. And so just in simple terms, what is being shown is what's illustrated there. So day 3, let the waters under the heaven began. And also, if you look, the firmament is called heaven. So, and God called the firmament heaven. So, you think of that going forward is that the firmament itself is called heaven. So the next day, day 3, so God said, let the waters under the heaven. So if you think the firmament is called heaven, the waters under the heaven, and that's where under is underlined, just to emphasize that it means under, in or to a position below or beneath something. And if you guys just walked in and don't have a copy, here's some loaner copies up here. Just so you know just what it is. Let the waters be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of waters he called seas. God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself, on the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning was the third day. Now, if you'll notice here, so the dry land appears, and then vegetation comes forth. But we don't see the sun in here at all yet. That's the next day. to day 3. So we see, like I said, we see plants growing without the sun. And I think prior to the fall of man, I think a lot of things are very different. So that being true. And God, so day 4, and God said, "Let there be light in the firmament." So this is a big hang for people. There's light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, as for days and years. And let there be for light in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the days, the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning was the 4th day. So there's a lot we can take from this, where it says, so from the beginning there, it says, "Let there be light in the firmament of the heaven." So a lot of people, it seems to me a lot of people can take that 2 ways, where, so are the lights literally in the firmament, like what you were talking about earlier, where they're in the actual firmament, where attached to the firmament, or in, let's say, the firmament. Let's think of it as this 6, and they're somewhere in the middle, basically. The other thing could be they're inside of the firmament, where, say, if you're in a coliseum or whatever, you're like inside, like you're in the kingdom or whatever, you're inside of the kingdom. So I think of it as being inside of the firmament, like I'm in my car. Well, that doesn't mean I'm in the engine compartment of my car, part of the car. I'm in a car, we're in a room. That's how I see it, and there's a lot of reasons moving forward that I see it that way. But I don't think it's a stretch when people do things more than being part of inside of the actual thickness of the firmament. I think there's better things to argue about it on that, but there's a few reasons why I do think it's inside of, as far as this. So, day 5, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life, and the fowl that may be that fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And that's another kind of going into that in the open firmament, inside of the open firmament. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fowl multiply on the earth." And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. I find it interesting that the 5th day is when the sea creatures, things that swim up here, and the birds. I have no idea why it's in this order. It's just interesting that it is in this order. And then the 6th day, so God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, the cattle, the creeping thing, the beasts of the earth after his kind," and it was so, and so on and so forth. And so this is where, man, the animals appear first, all the creeping things on the earth, and then man. So man is the last one to be created after everything else. And then day 6, and so there's his creation complete. And then day 7, God rests. So Genesis chapter 1, a lot of people will go, well, this subject isn't important. I've heard that countless times from people. I'm sure some of you guys have already heard that, talking about, people get really upset with me when you bring up biblical cosmology. Some people will just say flat earth, and well, that's not important. It doesn't matter. It's not a salvation issue. And they just brush it off. And how many of you guys have had that? Most of you have had that happen. And I certainly have had that happen. And so to me, I don't, or people almost be like, yeah, but we don't need to talk about that. It's not important. Well, it's the first chapter of the Bible. And to say that what the first chapter of the Bible is describing is important is, I think, I don't know, who determines what's important in the Bible? Who's to say, oh, the first chapter and all those hundreds of other chapters that talk about creation are important? It's silly. And I think it's just a defense mechanism for most people. They don't know how to take a subject. And one of the biggest fears of man is the fear of change. And so this subject gets people to change, and a lot of people don't want to change. And so I think it's a defense mechanism to say, I don't want to go there, I don't want to think about it, go away, you're crazy. But it's a defense of how I picture it. And I don't know if they necessarily feel that way, like, oh, it's not important, even though that's what they're saying. But I really don't like hearing people say that. It's foolish. And the other thing is when people say, oh, it's not a salvation issue. How many of you guys have heard that? Okay, most people. Okay, for 2 believers, Jesus followers, one believes the earth is a spinning ball, the other believes the earth is like it described. Is it a salvation issue for two believers, followers of Christ? I don't believe for either one of them it makes salvational difference. Okay? I don't see where believing biblical cosmology is going to risk anything. However, for the atheist, they grew up atheist, going to college, comes out a diehard atheist that believes in the Big Bang and believes in evolution and believes there is no God. This is the kind of subject that can bring them to salvation. There's countless testimonies of that happening where people, diehard atheists, go out and they discover with their own eyes to see that they're seeing things that they should not be able to see. And then they go, wow, that's amazing. Then they hear the Bible actually describes what you're seeing. They go to the Bible to actually see that for themselves and then become followers of Christ. Is it a salvational issue for them? It brought them to Him. There's many ways to Jesus, one way to the Father, right? This is one of those many ways to find the Creator, right? So is it a salvation issue for that person? It's not salvation in itself, no, it's not. But it is a tool used to bring them towards salvation. Does that make sense? I hope I'm saying that properly. And so, because a lot of people get super hung up on it, and it's the same kind of thing for me. It's a defense mechanism. It's not salvation; it should go away. Did I explain that properly? Oh, yeah. The thing is, for instance, distances. Yeah. So, good question. I'm glad you brought that up. So the curvature. There's supposed to be a curvature we're supposed to be able to see is 8 inches per mile squared. So for every mile, the Earth is supposed to drop by 8 inches. And then as you go further out, the drop exponentially increases. And so you can mathematically calculate, okay, that point, whatever I'm seeing out there is, 20 miles away. You can do the math and see if you're, seeing it from my eyes are 5'4" or whatever. I can see, okay, from this height, that thing is that far away. I should only be able to see this much of it, but I'm seeing all of it. How is that possible? And that's what I did in 2015 in Seattle and in Montana, looking over water. Water, is a good level surface. And I spent days and days doing different tests and experiments and seeing things that I should not mathematically be able to see. And so and it's something that the average Joe can do. And with technology we have today, like Michael talking about the P900 or P1000 cameras, the Nikon cameras that are available, it is an incredible tool to be able to zoom in and see things that we should not be able to see. And until I did that test for myself, I didn't really take ownership of this. You hear other people giving their testimony, seeing things you should be able to see. But until I took the time and money and went out and did it for myself. There are thousands of experiments out there that people have done on YouTube. You can see lots of videos. Darrenism, the laser one is a really popular one. Some of my first videos I put up on YouTube. And after this, what I'll do is I'll re-put them up. There's better ones than the one I filmed, but I actually had, pretty early video in 2015 on looking at different. Basically, if you look up curvature test, I think that's probably what you want to type in. Water level test. The moon test is a cool one that's different, but that's testing the moonlight, the temperature of the moonlight. And so because it's something anybody can do, you just kind of got to find an area to do it. Water, salt flats. I talked to somebody last night, actually, they're going to go out to salt flats. Yeah, out here. This is a fantastic.
14 miles from all coast to Cedar Point. You go drive up to the next town, about 10 miles. 25 miles to the coast. 25 miles curve would be 420 feet. That would be the highest on the coast. You can see any of the tallest buildings in the next town. This is a perfect spot right here.
Yeah, out over this water. What I would do too, if I had lots of time around here, what I would do is I'd find what's the furthest distance across this lake? Anybody know the absolute furthest you can see the frontier? So what I would do is I would sit up here and spend a lot of time on your telescopes and cameras and just do the math.
There is an Canadian island that you can see here when the water's calm.
Okay.
Like you said, and it's got the right lighting. You can see parts of Canada.
Okay. Yeah. You can see Canada
With your naked eye.
Yeah, with the naked eye. Yeah. Yeah. And so what I did, I actually had this laptop, and I brought it out to the pier in Edmonds, Washington, looking at our computers now. I had TV tray I brought with me. I had a telescope, and I had a digital camera hooked to the telescope. And so I'm out there on this dock, and everybody's like, "What are you doing?" This is 2015, looks pretty relatively new. Yeah, I look pretty silly out there, but I was like, I want to know if I can see things I shouldn't be able to see. After that, it really changed. It really helped solidify, all of this whole subject. And when you mathematically when you live on a supposed spinning ball, the math is relatively simple to know what the curve is. So 1 Samuel 2:8. So throughout the book, it goes from Genesis to Revelation of what does the Bible say. And so it's not every example in the Bible of what's described. It's just kind of the more prominent ones. And I had 130-something examples originally. I had to whittle it down because it was being very redundant. But there's way more examples in the Bible that could be in there. For every one in here, there's multiple more that could be. And so it's almost endless. And like I said before, the Bible versions, I wanted to have 8 Bible versions. And there's just no room for that. But I wish there was. So 1 Samuel 2:8, he raises up the poor out of the dust and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill to set them among the princes and to make them inherit the throne of glory. The pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he hath set the world upon them. So other versions say pillars, some say for the foundation. So NIV says foundations of the earth are the Lord, and on them he hath set the world. So this is one of many, many, many examples talking about the world being set on pillars or foundations. So 1 Chronicles 16:30, here before him all the earth, the world also shall be stable that it be not moved. There's many examples talking about the earth not being able to be moved. However, there are examples talking about the earth shaking. And so a lot of people go, see, it's a contradiction. See, here it says doesn't move, there it says shake. And how I picture this is right now, if there was a pretty good sized earthquake, like not a devastating one, but let's say a pretty good sized earthquake to happen, this building would be shaking, right? We'd all be kind of freaking out a little bit. And then afterwards, it would stop. So if you had a surveyor come out afterwards, before and after, and then ask him, did the building move? And the surveyor would be like, no, it's still there. Still exactly the same place. So it shook, but it didn't move, if that makes sense. And that's kind of how I picture it. It's certainly, there's nowhere in the Bible that talks about the earth moving millions of miles per day. About the earth moving millions of miles per day. Like we're told, it is moving literally millions of miles a day. Is what we're brought up with. And people will nitpick about shake versus move, which, doesn't move, works and shake. Therefore, snares are round about thee, and sudden fear troubleth thee, or darkness that thou canst not see. The abundance of waters covered thee. Is not God on the height of heaven, and behold the height of the stars, how high they are. So notice the height, high. You look at the definition of that. Distance upward, rising or extending upward a great distance. And constantly you'll see God in the heights of heaven, or the highest heaven, or glory to God in the highest heaven. And it's always this high, above. There's constant description, thousands in the Bible of high, or above, below, descend, ascend, thousands and thousands of descriptive words that you have to dismiss. If you want to believe what the world tells us, every one of those thousands of examples has to be a metaphor or an allegory or whatever. You have to do that to be able to fit the paradigm together. And I don't want to do that. I want to take the Bible for what it actually says. He stretches out the north over the empty place and hangeth the earth upon nothing. Job 26:7, actually the second half of that verse, is one of two examples most people use, and like I did in the past, to try to describe earth as some kind of ball of space. But notice how we all conveniently leave out, he stretches out the north over the empty place. Or he spread spreads out the northern skies over the empty space. He stretches out the north over the void. He stretches out the pond over the void. That's interesting right there. We always leave that out when we talk about, and the earth hangs on nothing. Right? First of all, the first half of that verse, stretching out the north over the empty space. This is one of the reasons I think the stars and the sun, moon, and stars are underneath and significantly below the firmament. Being a void between the stars and the bottom of the firmament would give a very infinite, an illusion of an infinite, I guess you could say. And it would also give parallax, where the further you go outward from north, the lower the sky the northern star would be, and why if you go to the tip of Chile, you can't see the northern star. But it also ties into when Jesus descends in the future, how every eye can see him. Because if the northern star and all the stars are significantly lower than the bottom of the firmament, we would have that parallax to where when he descends, the northern star is here, and you're way out in Chile, but Jesus is descending from way up there. So if there's a significant void where it says the void, he spreads out the northern skies over empty space. So if there's an empty space in there, then that would give that illusion. And he suspends the earth over nothing, and hangs the earth upon nothing, and hangs the earth on nothing. And so, if it's not hanging, but it's sitting on foundations, on pillars, then the earth is not hanging. That makes sense. Pretty straightforward. He binds up the waters in his thick clouds. Let me fast forward to verse 11 here. The pillars of heaven tremble and are astounded at his rebuke. This is one of the examples where it talks about the pillars of heaven. On day 2, the firmament was called heaven. And so the pillars of heaven, meaning if heaven has pillars, that means heaven/firmament has pillars. The firmament sits on pillars that are founded on the earth. So a lot of times it talks about, actually, that's right here. And are astounded at his rebuke. In other examples, there's quite a few examples in here where it talks about God being angry up in the highest heaven, where the firmament shakes. It talks about the heavens shake and the earth trembles. And so heaven, the firmament, is connected to the earth via these pillars of heaven. So when God is angry, heaven shakes, earth trembles. It all makes sense because it's all connected. But if you're thinking of a spinning ball in space, and heaven is just somewhere out there in the distant galaxy, this is ludicrous. It doesn't make any sense. And so I just picture, say if I want to get my son's attention, stomping on the floor, hey, wake up if he's doing something he shouldn't be. You don't think our Heavenly Father does the same thing. I would see it be like, the idea of like a tuning fork where things can vibrate and resonate, things like that. It's something hard. If you walk up to a little glass dome and flick it or something, I would imagine it resonates. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. It's all connected like that. So, I haven't looked into this particular subject, but all this stuff doesn't surprise me one bit. And scientists are baffled by this. It's like, I wonder why. Because they take God completely out of the equation. If they had it in the equation like I think actual, literal, real science would be, then I think it wouldn't be a big surprise. But I'll look into that. It's interesting. So, do you know the balancing of the clouds, the wondrous works of the one whose knowledge is perfect? You whose garments are hot when the earth is still because of the south wind. Can you, like him, spread out the skies, hard as a molten mirror? Talking about the firmament again, or the dome, if you want to think of it that way. Hard as a cast metal mirror. I don't know. I like to read the different versions too, just to get a good description here. But out of the north comes golden splendor. Around God is awesome majesty. And this is one thing that really makes me think of the Northern Lights. The golden splendor. I personally think that's what it's talking about here. But just my opinion. So this here, Job 38, is in Job, the end of Job. God asks Job dozens of questions. Job can't answer a single one. And God is talking to Job, and he says, let's see, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched out the line upon it? So think of I just picture in construction these measuring terms. Right? On what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. And so this to me is really telling, because I get this question a lot. Well, what's the foundation of the earth sitting on? And I think this explains what it is. On what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone? God doesn't tell Job, and I think he leaves a complete mystery. It's not for us to know. There's some things it's not up to us to know. And a lot of people have a hard time accepting that. A lot of people will go, when you look at basically the cutaway view of the globe, and they go, well, this is the mantle, and here's the crust, and here's the core, and here's all this stuff. Well, the deepest man has been into the earth is approximately 8 miles into the earth, but yet they can show what's thousands of miles into the earth, but we buy that. In reality, there's no way for them to know that. But to put that in textbook, it satisfies that wondering. And so we're like, oh, okay, we get it, even though we don't. And so when you tell people, yeah, we don't know what's under these foundations, other places, I don't know if we're going to get to it, talks about God exposing the foundations of the earth with his nostrils, actually. And so we see that, but what is that connected to? We have to be willing to accept that there are some things that in this lifetime we're not going to know. What exactly is the moon? I think we know what it's not. We know what it's not what they tell us, but what is it exactly? I've accepted the fact that we're never going to know. And I'm totally okay with that because it's not for us to know. But at least that's how I feel about it. I'm totally cool with that. What exactly is the sun? I love that people are doing different experiments, but I don't believe we're going to know in this lifetime. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, does the spinning ball hit a corner? Exactly. And think of when you're building things, the first brick you lay has to be perfect. Because that brick, when you're laying it in there, that everything lines up with that. And so, yeah, this is all allegory. If you take this to think it's a globe, it's all metaphor. I don't see how you could fit these together. So Psalm 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. So on Werner von Braun's headstone, Psalm 19:1 is on his headstone. The biggest famous Nazi scientist that ever lived, that verse is on his headstone. You think he knew something that most people don't. So their line, I need to keep moving here. So thou hast set all the borders of the earth, thou hast made summer and winter. When the earth totters and all its inhabitants, it is I who keep its pillars steady. So I really need to cruise here because I want to cover a few other things. So for he hath looked down from the height of his sanctuary from heaven, did the Lord behold the earth to hear the groaning of the prisoner. Behold, hast thou laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of thy hands. So this talks about, let's see, I need to keep moving, but for thy mercy is great above the heavens, and thy truth reaches unto the clouds. Be thou exalted, O God, above the heavens, and thy glory above all the earth. And constantly throughout the Bible, and there's tons of examples when you're talking about God being over all the earth, above all the earth. And so if you picture above, in or to a higher place than over all, the whole entire total amount quantity or extent of. Well, if you're a spinning ball in space flying in multiple directions, above all, so we're flying towards him, but the universe is expanding, and none of this makes any sense. But if you take it for what we already learned in Genesis chapter 1, everything just completely lines up and makes sense. So praise ye the Lord from the heavens, praise him in the heights. Praise ye him, all his angels, praise ye him, all his hosts, praise ye him, sun and moon, praise ye him all ye stars of light. Praise him, ye heavens of heavens, and ye waters that be above the heavens. And so this is Psalm 148. So after the flood, talking about still waters being above the heavens, and so water still being up there after the flood. And that's where later in the book I talk about the windows of heaven opening. And even after the flood, the windows of heaven opened without letting water in. And in the future, windows of heaven open without letting water in. And back to the book, I go over, because a lot of people go, well, how's that possible to not flood the earth then? Well, there's a couple very simple reasons why that could be. I covered that in the back of the book. This is one of my favorite images here. And this goes into the subject of like Freemasonry, for instance. With the compass. So when he established the heavens, I was there, when he drew a circle on the face of the deep. And so, I mean, you right back to Genesis, verse chapter 1, on the face of the deep on day 1. So he drew a circle on the face of the deep when he made firm the skies above. And also other versions, remember, the sky was called heaven. The firmament was called sky. Look at on day 2, look at the different versions. When he established the fountains of the deep, when he assigned to the sea its limit, there's a limit to the sea, so that the waters might not transgress his command, when he marked out the foundations of the earth. And so there's more construction terms, and I think that also when he, one of these talks about a compass, when he said, so King James, when he said a compass upon the face of the depth. And a compass is, an instrument for drawing circles or marking measurements consisting of 2 pointed legs joined at the top by a pivot. This is one thing, too, when people will go, well, the earth is round. The earth is round. And I agree, the earth is round. When viewed from above looking down, a circle is round. And so you'll see astronauts talk about, I laugh at this thing of astronauts, but you'll see them say, yeah, earth is round. Have you guys seen that one where the news lady was asking them, is earth round? And the astronauts are like, yes, earth is round. Yeah, a circle is round. So they're technically not lying by saying that, but when people hear round, they picture globe. Just a comment that I think is funny, but so the sun also arises and the sun goes down and has tasted to his place where he arose. So this here also, if you look this up, this arises. I don't have time to look it up, but look this up in concordance, the arises part. It also means to come and to go. These words that are used to come. So the sun also to come and go. So the sun comes and goes. And it talks about, in the Bible, the sun being on its course, the sun and the stars being on their course above the earth is a very common theme that we see. And it's also the sunrise perspective. So if you sit here, hey Michael, if you sit here and something coming towards you, it looks like it's rising. If it's going away, it looks like it's going down. But yeah, certainly if that's a hang up for you, look at the original, stuff in the concordance, and you'll see to come and to go, which still doesn't make any sense with how we're talking. How does the sun come and go when we're the ones supposedly spinning around it? But it makes total sense if the earth, the sun and moon and stars are above, running their courses. It is he that sits upon the circle of the earth. There it is, circle again. And notice how it says circle of the earth. When viewed from above, the circle, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretches out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. And so there's that same thing with in. So there's a lot to take in from this. And this is one of the 2 verses. Like I said, they're half a verse in Job that people would use to try to describe a globe, where the earth hangs on nothing because it's set on foundations. And this is the other one that people would quote, Isaiah 40:22. Circle of the earth. But I think we already covered the circle part of that, but that stretches out the heavens. So a lot of times it talks about the firmament, the heavens stretched, and the earth is spread. So more often than not, it talks about heavens being stretched and earth being spread. And so if you picture, and I actually have an image coming up here. Yeah, the next page. The heavens are stretched out, and the earth being spread. And it's just a super common theme that shows up a lot. And so, let's see, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. And so if you can picture, just setting up a tent, and we would dwell inside of that. And this brings me right back to well, God set the sun, moon, and stars in the firmament. Well, if we're dwelling in the tent, are we dwelling in the walls of the tent, or are we just inside of the tent? And so this is one of many examples of why I think the sun, moon, and stars are, below the firmament, but inside of. Okay, so this is a good one. So, thus saith the Lord, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith the Lord. So, basically, paraphrasing, how I see this is God said, this is how I picture this, God says, you can't measure the heavens, and you can't explore the foundations of the earth. And it's the gist of what's being said here. But modern science will tell you that, we have explored the heavens. We've been shot all these things way out to Jupiter and Pluto and whatever. Well, is that true or not? I think this is God calling man a liar. And the foundations of the earth, they cannot be searched out. So this, like I said, it just confirms that there are things that we just, it's not for us to know. And if heaven above can be measured, and that's why when you talked about earlier how high is the firmament from here, I don't think I don't think it's for us to know, and I don't think we can. Well, wandering stars. Like there's something up there that there's things that go on different courses. I believe, I remember one verse in the Bible talks about being wandering stars reserved for judgment. I forget. Jupiter. Okay, yeah, you know that. So looking at them through telescopes and things like that, I mean, through a telescope, I don't see any difference between them and normal stars or shooting stars for that matter. I mean, they all look like the same kind of thing, just doing different things. That's how I see it. Yeah. And Rob covered this the other day where the things they can zoom in on, they're like 8 pixels, but out of those 8 pixels, little gray pixels, then they go, hey, artist, here's gray pixels that look like nothing. What do you think it looks like? And some artist goes off, well, here's a planet, but maybe we can live on it. It's all fantasy. Yeah. I see any astronaut testimony talking about things they've done. I walked on the moon. I flew the ISS. All that kind of stuff. I mean, how many of them are military or in a Freemasonry and secret society stuff? Not to mention, I would think that a lot of them have to be, like you said, MK Ultra. They have to have, I would assume, a lot of mind control stuff too, where what it can get them to actually believe that they did that. And it seems to me like that's probably the biggest one, the MK Ultra stuff, where if they can really convince somebody that they actually did all that kind of, like they could probably take any of us and do whatever they do to get us to think that we're Walt Disney. I don't know.
I mean, they knew what they did, and they were filming it right.
I think that was Apollo 11?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Apollo, the first
Yeah.
mission,
I think
the
it's
guys, and they just
they look like, yeah. Yeah, exactly. They look like they supposedly accomplished the greatest feat man has ever accomplished, and they look like their wife just died or something. That's what it looks like. So, and then Amos 9:6, it is he that buildeth his house, his stories in the heaven, and hath founded his troops in the earth. He that calleth forth the waters of the sea and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name. There's other ones. Who builds his upper chambers in the heavens and founds his vault upon the earth. So that's another example of one of many talking about his vault being upon the earth. Who calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out upon the surface of the earth. The Lord is his name. So there's just descriptions of where God is, where our Heavenly Father is. It's constantly above the firmament. He walks on the firmament of the sky, or vault. don't want to misquote it. Let me back. Give me one sec to scoot forward. Where it talks about where is God. So this is in right here. So the common descriptions here. So skipping ahead, this is page 202. So the common descriptions, and so it says the earth cannot be moved, and so for every description here, it gives a page for reference. You can go to those pages and look. And like I said, these are not the only examples in the Bible. It's just what's in this book. So the earth can't be moved. The earth is circle shaped. The earth is spread out. The earth is a broad plain. The earth has ends. The earth is set on foundations. Skipping over here, the foundations of the earth. The earth is set on foundations. The foundations of the earth are also called pillars. The foundations cannot be searched out. God holds the first foundation steady, even through all the firmament, all the descriptions there. The foundations of heaven, so on page 206. The foundations of heaven are on the earth. Foundations of heaven are also called pillars. Foundations of heaven can shake and tremble. The north is a fascinating subject as well. The lights in the firmament description. The common descriptions here, where these are just copied and pasted from other places in the book. And this isn't all the descriptions too, but how consistent all the examples from the Bible are. On page 209, how it's above, below, down, over. God came down under the heavens, between, high, above, fallen, over, descending. It's all consistently up, down direction. Consistent. And then so the next page is where is God? And so this is the big one I want to do. So the descriptions. God is above the heavens and above all the earth. God is above and looks down at us. God is enthroned above the circle of the earth. God is above the firmament. God walks on the dome. God is in the far reaches of the north. God is in the heavens. God is in the height of heaven. God is above. God is up. God is in the highest heaven. God is above the stars. God is the most high. God ascends to heaven and descends to earth. God moves his home from heaven above to the earth below to be with his people. And that's with the New Jerusalem being that last one. So Psalm 113, 4 through 6. The Lord is exalted over all the nations, his glory above the heavens. Who is like the Lord, our God, the one who sits enthroned on high, and this is the big one, who stoops down to look on the heavens and the earth. And he said to them, you are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. And the empty space. This is when every eye sees Jesus. This is page 221. And so towards the end of the book, you get to the Q&A of, well, how can this be? How can every eye see Jesus when he descends in the future? And this explains that. Like I briefly touched on earlier. And so the last couple things I wanted to cover real quick was, so the topic of the aliens, it's kind of crazy to go into this. I briefly touched on it last night, but with because whether we're into the subject of aliens or not, which I'm not, but whether you are or not, just to understand that should there ever be an instance in the future where, oh, there's these aliens that came from this planet thing and they're saying they're going to help us or do whatever, just know that it's completely bogus. Should that ever happen in the future? Obviously not possible. However far-fetched they may sound, a lot of people think that might be true. And a gal last night, or a couple days ago, in my last talk, talked about the Santa. Talked about with your kids, with young kids, and they go off into school. So they learn this from their parents, and they go to school, and they're taught something completely different. And my wife actually gave me this to share, and I think it's a fantastic example. Dustin, I'm pretty much done. I'll wrap this up. Yep. She gave me this as a good example. So think of Santa Claus, for instance. I personally don't teach our kids about Santa Claus, but I do let them know if you go out into the world, the other kids and your friends, their parents are teaching them about Santa Claus. However, Santa Claus is just, a character, just like the characters you watch in your cartoon are characters, they're not real. And getting him to understand that, okay, they think of it as real, Santa Claus is real, but he's not. And so I don't think of him going out in the world being the outcast because he doesn't believe in Santa Claus, even though all of his friends, or most of his friends do. And so I don't think the subject is much more different than that, understanding that when he has a basic understanding that his friends believe something different than he does. So I don't think we should make it much more different than Santa Claus, I guess, even though it's a much more important subject. Because I had a gal the other night ask me about, my thoughts on kids and raising kids. So, and then lastly, I mentioned homeschooling. For some reason, I said Rob Baxter for homeschooling. It was Rob Blackwell, the guy doing all the guitar work, the worship music and stuff. I meant Rob Blackwell. I had kind of a hiccup there, brain freeze. But so yeah, Rob Blackwell. If anybody's interested about homeschooling curriculum and talking, he's a guy I would strongly suggest possibly. I didn't know they face the east. Are you talking about like? I know Muslims face Mecca or something, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. I pretty much when I, if I want to look directly towards where I think the Heavenly Father is, I look face north, look straight up. You know what I mean? And there'd be times where, just face north, see the North Star, straight up from there is, where Jesus is going to descend in the future. Think of this. So everything was created. There was nothing created that wasn't created through Jesus. And so he went into his own creation to set it straight, to pay the price. It's just fascinating. There's a lot of God questions out there. That's kind of along the lines of what you're talking about. But I just find it amazing that he'd go into his own creation and wash off his own creation's feet and die for his own creation. Yeah. Now, why does Jesus preach that? Because he loves us. When it, Yeah. Well, and then in the future, well, this goes into I'll end with this because I need to get going. This goes into the New Jerusalem when God comes down. A lot of people go, oh, spending eternity in heaven. How many of you guys have heard spending eternity in heaven? Like all of us, right? Okay. I don't see anywhere in Scripture that says we spend eternity in heaven. In the future, God, everything comes down to earth. The Father and Son are here on the earth in the future. There's no need for the sun, no need for the moon. Yeah, new heaven and new earth, and the New Jerusalem descends, and it goes out. So to understand that he's coming down here. And that's one thing I wonder when the sky rolls up like a scroll, when the firmament rolls up, to make room. I believe to make room for that New Jerusalem when it drops down. Anyway, we got to end this because I'm going to keep going for half an hour. There's also a Q&A. There's a cosmology Q&A. So if you got more questions, save me for that. I think it's come up for that.
Right after lunch after Ian. So around 2:50 today, we'll be doing the cosmology Q&A.
Okay. Around 2:50 today, the cosmology Q&A. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.